Hello everybody and welcome to the first lesson in my A+ 1102 course. So just like in my 1101 course, if you were there for that one, in this course, how it's going to run is I'm going to break it down by exam objective. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about a specific exam objective or a dot point within that exam objective. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you some practice questions to help you understand or help you see whether or not you're ready to tackle this exam objective on the real exam and the kind of questions you might get on the real exam. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into it with the exam objective that we're looking at today. And we're looking at 1.1, identify the basic features of Microsoft Windows editions. So we're going to look at the different editions of Microsoft Windows and some of the different features that are within them. Today, we're only looking at Windows 10 editions, but we will also be looking at the feature differences and upgrade paths in the next upcoming videos as well. I'm just trying to be as specific as I can with these videos so we get that pinpoint knowledge. So with that being said, let's get straight to it. There are multiple versions of Windows and each version is designed for a specific purpose. So in this video, I'm going to go through what those different versions are and when you might want to use each of those versions. These are the kind of questions that you'll get on your exam. You might be presented with a scenario that says, look, this person wants to do this. Based on these requirements, what versions of Windows should they use? By the end of this video, you should feel somewhat confident in being able to answer those kinds of questions. I'm confident that you'll be able to do it because I'm going to help you be able to do that. So let's get straight to it. As it says here, some versions are designed for home users, while others are designed to be used in an enterprise setting. Enterprise just means it's a big office environment with lots of different devices that need to be managed. The first one we're going to look at is Home. So Windows Home, it's designed for personal use on laptops, desktops, and tablets. And as we can see here in this photo, this guy is just chilling at home at his place of residence doing tasks for himself, right? It's the version of Windows that most people will be given when they go to the shop and purchase Windows. Most people are getting Windows Home. That allows you to do everything you need to do in your home for most of the tasks that most people need to do. It does have many functionalities, but it also lacks some. So we're going to go through what it does have and what it lacks, which will help you be able to answer the kinds of questions that I was talking about not too long ago. So it allows integration with your Microsoft account. So of course, your Microsoft account is an account with Microsoft that can be synced to your device and it can automatically load settings that are linked with your Microsoft account. So it creates a dedicated OneDrive folder that automatically syncs with the cloud for access and backup across devices. It allows for easy file sharing and personalizes your Windows experience by syncing settings across machines. In relation to security, Windows Home does include Windows Defender, which is the default antivirus software. Windows Defender, which is now referred to as Microsoft Defender Antivirus. It's the free built-in antivirus software on Windows computers. It offers real-time protection against viruses, malware, and other online threats. It also includes features like email protection, web browsing protection, and cloud-based threat detection to keep your device safe. It may not be the most feature-rich antivirus solution, but it does have a strong protection against modern threats. Okay, so Windows Home does come with that. It is a functionality of Windows Home. You do get that default Microsoft Defender antivirus software built in with your purchase. It also includes Cortana. Now Cortana, long story short, a voice-activated voice, it is able to be used with your voice. It's an assistant, but it's been phased out and it's not really in effect anymore. So just understand Cortana was popular. Now it's not so popular, but Windows Home did allow you to use Cortana. Don't stress too much about that. I don't really want you to pay too much mind to that one, to be honest. Now, this one I do want you to pay attention to. RDP functionality or remote desktop protocol functionality. That should ring a bell from your ports and protocols from your 1101 if you've done that previously, which I'm assuming you have. The remote desktop protocol is one that allows you to, with your computer, you can access another computer remotely and actually control their device as though you were on it with your mouse and keyboard. Now, with Windows 10 Home, this is really important. You can only act as a remote desktop protocol client to connect to other machines running Pro, Enterprise, or Education editions. Acting as a client with remote desktop protocol means that you can initiate the remote desktop connections to access another computer. That's if you're a client, but you can't be a host. So you can access other devices, but you can't be accessed. So that's a key difference. Windows 10 Home, you can only act as a client with Remote Desktop Protocol. I'm sure you're very likely to get a question about that. Every other version of Windows above it, you can act as a client and as a host. You can be accessed by others and you can access others. But Windows 10 Home, you can only access others. You cannot be accessed by others. That is a very, very important difference there. Okay, so understand that absolutely. BitLocker is a full disk encryption feature for Windows that scrambles your entire drive's contents, rendering them inaccessible without the proper decryption key. It offers strong data protection for laptops or desktops in case of theft or loss. Windows 10 Home does not have BitLocker. This is another one of those scenarios where, yes, you'll need to know this. Windows 10 Home does not have BitLocker, but every other version of Windows that you need to know for your exam does have it. So Windows 10 Home, again, it's the only one that does not have this capability. It is a feature reserved for Windows Pro, Enterprise. You don't have to worry about education, sorry. Pro for Workstation, and Enterprise. Education is not in the scope of this exam, so apologies for that. But just know that the other version of Windows above 10 Home do have BitLocker. That's what you need to know for your exam. Domain access. What does that mean, first of all? Domain access lets you join a network where a central server manages user accounts and permissions. So this is common in workplaces or schools where you have a lot of different devices that you need to manage because you can manage them from the central management server, right? You don't have to go over to each individual computer and log in and change everything manually. You can do it from the central server. It's not necessary for home use though, of course, because it's just on your one device. So Windows 10 Home does not allow domain access. You don't have access to a domain, and that's why these people in these photos are crying, right? He's crying so much because he wants access to a domain, but he only purchased Windows Home. So he doesn't have access to a domain, right? So just know that Windows 10 Home, no domain access. Other versions of Windows, yes, you have domain access, absolutely. We'll look at them more specifically coming up though as well. Speaking of, we're on to Pro. So we had Home, now Pro. We'll have a look at some of the differences here. It's ideal for businesses or professional environments, and it has additional features compared to Home, which we'll look at now. So you're not at home now, you're really using this for business purposes or as part of your workplace. The first key difference, as we already kind of talked about, Remote Desktop Protocol functionality, you can be a client or a host. You can access others or you can be accessed as well. That's a key difference that you need to know. BitLocker, you do have BitLocker. You do have that full disk encryption for Windows 10 Pro and for every other version that we'll be looking at. It's only Windows 10 Home that does not have BitLocker. Domain access. You do have domain access, which is why these guys are so happy. Windows 10 Pro and up they all have access to domain. So again, Windows 10 Home is the only one that doesn't. Windows 10 Pro and the others that we'll be looking at do have access to domains. So which again is that central management of a multitude of devices through a central server. And then the next version of Windows we're looking at now is we're still Pro, but we're Pro for Workstations. So specifically, what does that mean? It's tailored for high performance desktops or workstations with demanding tasks. It builds upon Pro features, right? So yes, we have Pro, but we also have a machine that needs to do a lot of work. And we're going to have a look at roughly what that would look like now. Windows 10 Pro for Workstations is basically a souped up version of Windows 10 Pro designed for high performance machines and demanding workloads. It has more muscle for demanding tasks and allows your machine to leverage more powerful hardware. So we're looking at giving our hardware the capability to be able to do what it needs to do really demanding tasks. So before we get into it, we're thinking about video editing. We're thinking about using a large amount of data and trying to analyze that data, right? Anything resource intensive, we're going to want Pro for Workstations for that. Specifically, it allows us to utilize 4 CPUs. That's huge, right? Imagine what you could do with 4 CPUs. So as you can imagine, you're going to get a lot more out of your hardware if you have 4 CPUs, okay? So that's going to allow you to render videos more quickly if you're a video editor. It's going to allow you to do anything that requires a large amount of processing power more quickly, more smoothly, more easily, and better than you would otherwise be able to if you just had one little CPU slot, right? It's not going to cut it. Additionally, it also, this is a huge one, it also gives you access to 6 terabytes of RAM. Okay, so again, think about maybe you need to be doing multiple things at the same time, or you just need to do one thing that's taking up a lot of RAM. 6 terabytes is going to allow you to do that again much more easily than you otherwise would be able to, which is why this little lady down here is looking very ecstatic because she made the decision to get Windows 10 Pro for workstations and she has all this RAM at her disposal. Look how happy she is, right? Video editors, data analytics, things where if you're working with a large amount of data and you need to process that data, very resource intensive, you're going to need a lot of RAM. 6 terabytes of RAM, okay? That's really important. Just think resource intensive tasks. You're probably going to want Pro for workstations. Now, again, it also has resilient file system. So Windows 10 Pro for workstations has resilient file system, which unlike the standard file system is built for high stakes environments that deal with massive storage. This file system constantly scans for and corrects errors in your data, preventing corruption. So as you can imagine, it's crucial for workstations handling huge amounts of critical information where even a minor glitch could be disastrous. So something keeping in mind, that's actually not explicitly on the exam objectives, I don't believe, but just it's better to know it than not know it. I'm not straying too far, but just be aware that that is there. You could get some sort of vague question that alludes to that potentially. Now, just again, the remote desktop protocol, BitLocker, and domain access, as I said before, it's all the same as Pro. All versions except for Windows 10 Home have full functionality on all of these. Windows 10 Home, remote desktop protocol functionality, you can only be a client, but all other versions, you can be client or a host. BitLocker, you have that on all versions except for Windows 10 Home. Domain access, you have that on all versions except for Windows 10 Home. All right, so that's going to be the same moving forward for all versions. The final version that you need to know for your exam is Windows 10 Enterprise, which is designed for large organizations with numerous devices. It expands on Pro features for large-scale management. So let's take a quick little look here. It allows for volume licensing, okay? So this is key. Windows 10 Enterprise caters for large organizations, so a lot of devices within the one organization with its compatibility with volume licensing. It provides a single key for multiple machines, which simplifies the deployment process and potentially offers perks like deployment tools and flexible user/device-based licensing options. In layman's talk, what you need to know is that volume licensing, or if you want to have the same software on a wide variety of machines, Enterprise allows you to do that really easily. If you have to get the same software on a wide variety of machines within an enterprise setting, within a big office with multiple devices, Windows 10 Enterprise might be the way to go for that one. App Locker. It also has App Locker, which is a feature absent in the lower version. So this is only in Enterprise. It's basically a bouncer for your computer. It allows you to, as an administrator, create blacklists and whitelists for the apps that can be installed on devices within your organization. So you can say, no, you can never install this application, but you can install these applications, right? That way, it prevents employees from installing applications that might do damage to your business, which is, of course, something you don't want. So Enterprise is the only one that allows you to do that. You've got branch cache as well. This is something you'll definitely need to know for your exam. So imagine that offices are downloading large files from the main office over a slow internet connection. That's not going to be ideal, right? Instead, with branch cache, what it does is it caches frequently accessed data locally. So if you're constantly pulling data over and over and over again from the main office, for example, maybe there's a better way to do that. Maybe you can cache that data locally. That way, if you want to access it, it's right there and ready to go. So branch cache allows you to access frequently accessed data more efficiently, more quickly, more easily, just better, really. So that is an efficient thing that is only available with Windows 10 Enterprise that you should know for your exam as well. And also it allows for granular UX control. So it basically, in short, feel free to stop and read that, but it allows you to really, at a finite level, make very specific changes for each individual device and user profile on your in your business. Okay, so that's basically what that means. You can do it to a more specific level with more detail. That's what that means. You can't just change some things at a broad scale. You can change every little thing, right? Enterprise allows you to do that. And again, full RDP functionality. You have BitLocker and domain access, of course. Now, Here is a table that essentially summarizes everything that we said. So feel free to pause and read this. I recommend almost really being able to draw this table off the top of your head before taking your exam, because you'll almost certainly get a question on the different versions of Windows when you go in to your exam. So this goes through the maximum RAM for different versions of the same Windows 10 versions. So 86 versus 64 versions of Home, Pro for Workstations, and Enterprise. You'll notice that for 86, it is 4 gig all the way through, whereas for 64, that's where you're starting to take full advantage of what that has to offer, right? So for Home, 128 gigabytes, for Pro, 2 terabytes, and then 6 terabytes for Pro for Workstations and Enterprise. Domain access, again, every version except for Home. BitLocker is available on every version except for Home. Client and host for remote desktop protocol is available for every version except for Home. For Home, remember, you can only be a client. Home does not have group policy management, but the other versions do. Only Enterprise has branch cache. Only Enterprise has volume licensing. Only Enterprise has granular UX control, and only Enterprise has app locker. So it's worth knowing that going into your exam. Just take note of the little asterisk down here. Read that for me before you go ahead and leave any comments. But that's what I want you to understand going into your exam. That's what you need to know at a broad level. That is what I would recommend understanding going into your exam. That's coming from someone who passed it on their first go with no IT experience previously after just a short amount of time studying, because I focus on the key concepts you need to know, not all the little intricate details that really goes beyond the scope of the exam. This is what I recommend understanding in relation to this dot point of this exam objective, before taking your exam. I'm talking too fast, I'm thinking too fast, my mouth can't keep up. Okay, and finally, the minimum requirements for both versions of Windows 10. You've got, you need a 1 gigahertz or faster processor. You need at least 32 gigabytes of free disk space. You need, I'm not going to read that out. You're very unlikely to have a question on this, but just so you know, that's the video requirements, minimum video requirements, and memory. You may be asked to do this, and in some of these practice questions I'm about to give you, you'll be asked to differentiate between this. For 86 version, you'll need 1 gigabyte of RAM, and for the 64 version, you'll need 2 gigabytes of RAM. That's a key component. If you're asked to say what's the minimum Windows version you can have based on this, then you might need to know that. All right, now it's time for our questions to see if we know enough that we need to know to take our actual exam. So let's go ahead and get straight to it with question number 1. Question 1 reads, you are a graphic designer working on a high-resolution video editing project. Your computer supports 6 terabytes of RAM and allows you to leverage 4 CPUs for faster rendering speeds. Which version of Windows 10 are you likely using? A, Home, B, Pro, C, Pro for Workstations, or D, Enterprise? Pause the video if you need more time to think about it. I'm going to give you your answer in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is C, Pro for Workstation. So the key giveaway there was the large RAM capacity. So again, Pro for Workstations does allow you to have up to 6 terabytes of RAM. But if you had a look at our table, Enterprise also allows that. So that's not all we need to know. We also needed to know that it allowed those 4 CPU slots as well, right? So down here, this version is geared towards enterprise management, right? So if the question was talking about managing a lot of devices within an enterprise, then that would be where we'd want to go. But because it's specified, we're doing really heavily intensive tasks. That's why we wanted Pro for Workstations. Just think Workstations, it's like a workhorse. If you're doing something demanding, it's a workhorse. So you want Pro for Workstations. All right, hopefully we did okay on that one. We'll go ahead, get to the next question, which reads, you need to connect remotely to your office computer from home to access some work files. You can initiate the remote desktop connection, but you cannot allow others to access your home computer remotely. Which version of Windows 10 is likely installed on your home computer? A, Home, B, Pro, C, Pro for Workstations, or D, Enterprise? Again, pause if you need some time to think about this one. I'm going to go ahead and get straight to the answer in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is Home. So the key here was we're talking about remote desktop protocol. And remember, Windows 10 Home is the only version of Windows that does not allow you to act as a host. You can only be a client. All other versions of Windows 10 that you need to know for your exam, that will be on your exam, allow you to be a client or a host. So hopefully we remembered that from the content that we just went through before. go ahead, get into the next question. Feel free to pause and read through this if you do wish. It explains all the other options, why they were right, why they were wrong. Now, the next question reads, you are looking to install Windows 10 on your device and are trying to figure out whether or not you meet the requirements for the 64 version of Windows. Your device has a 1 gigahertz processor, 33 gigabytes of free disk space, 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, and meets the video requirements for both versions. Based on the given information, what is the maximum version of Windows your device can support? A, 86, B, neither, C, Pro for Workstations, or D, 64. Pause the video if you need more time as usual. 3, 2, 1, here comes our answer. The answer is 86. So as explained here, guys, the 64 version of Windows requires a minimum of 2 gigabytes of RAM. And your device, as stated in the question, only has 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. So you'll just need to understand, basically the minimum RAM requirements, the minimum requirements for different versions of Windows, and that was covered in this video. So if you didn't catch that, make sure you go back and you really make sure you got that down. You may very well be asked about that. All right. So if you found this video useful, if you enjoyed this, if you think the way that it was broken down by exam objective and how I gave you those practice questions was really, really, really good, this was just some of the content from my learning guide for the A+ 1102 exam that you can find over at journeytocyber.com. If you head over there, where it says choose your exam, click on A+ 1102, you will have my learning guide that you can purchase. So it covers every single objective for the examination, and it breaks it down even further into every single dot point. And for every single dot point, you get notes, active recall questions, and practice examination questions, as you have seen in this video. So this was just some of the questions that you have. There's a lot more in the actual learning guide. And again, once you've gone through the whole learning guide, you can go over to the online quiz database, which randomizes these questions and gives you a simulated exam experience. So I think it is the most useful thing out there for this exam, and I really recommend you should get your hands on it. But that being said, I'm a little bit biased. Here's what other people are saying about my 1101 learning guide. I've got a lot of good reviews on that. For my 1102 one, I basically took this and I put it on steroids. So if they're saying this about the 1101, they'll be saying even better things about the 1102. They say, your learning guide is goated. I don't comment a lot, but it helps with organized information and helps me piece things together more easily. Thank you so much. Your notes helped me pass my test today. I downloaded your learning guide and can see that it will help immensely with studying. I tried some other resources, but struggled absorbing the material. Will you have one for the 1102? Hey, I do. That's this one. So look, as I said, for each of these, you'll get comprehensive notes, and you'll also have that online quiz database. You'll have active recall questions, practice questions. So if you want to get your hands on that, head over there now. You can also grab my performance-based questions. There's 7 of them in there, and they're designed to really test your knowledge on everything you'll need to know across a wide variety of different exam objectives and give you the ability to focus in on the broad spectrum of things you'll need to understand. I think some performance-based questions, they're too specific, where it's good. They give you experience doing performance-based questions, but they don't actually test you on a wide enough range of knowledge and give you the opportunity to pull all of that knowledge in and use that knowledge to answer a question. So I try my best to be able to do that here. So you've also got my PBQs for the 1102. You can grab them over at journeytocyber.com. You'll be as happy as this guy here. So with that being said, not necessary. You can get everything you need from these free video series that I will be putting out. But if you don't want to wait for the next video, or you just want to get it right now, journeytocyber.com, that's where you want to go. All right. Bye, guys.